Class, this is Dr. Peter Terzoptis. Wanted to do this video on researching. I was on a phone call about 10:30 last night, and I had just got back from Louisville, Kentucky, taking tax break number 2, James, to a thing called, it's like the Fun Zone. It's kind of like a lot of arcade games. It's what you see YouTube videos on. The kids all watch them and they get a little card and they swipe it and all that. So, anyways, long story short, got to eat at Wick's Pizza, which is a local Louisville classic pizza. It's just really nice. If you ever come to Louisville, if you like pizza, lots of pizza. They even have the Big Wick Challenge. So if you eat that, you get money and Hall of Fame on their website, stuff like that. So a lot of cool stuff. But had a good night. But the student really came in and was calling, needed help and support. And while a little late, I think it's great. I think it's wonderful to be able to spend that time with that student. So to get to it, a lot of times we're told to do things. And this is where a lot of these videos, I really believe, are focused on trying to help. We're told something like, well, you need to research better. And you can use the library. Just go do that. And you're like, well, what does that mean exactly? What does it mean to just go to the library and do it? So, okay, back in the 80s and 90s when we used to research, it was pretty simple. You had to drive or walk to the library, which was time. You had to go to a card catalog and go through all the cards, these little tiny cards, and these big, and you saw these big. I mean, they're huge. They were sometimes as tall as me, and I'm 6 foot 3.5. I was 6 foot 4 before I joined the army, and you had all these little drawers, and you pull them open, and there's you find what applied to what you wanted, and then when you're done researching there, you write everything down because they were stuck in there. You couldn't pull them out. They had a little circle, and it kept them in there. So then you go up to the stacks or the rows of books, and this could be a huge library, and you'd have to wander all over. And then once you found the book, you take the book off, and then you'd have to read it, and then you'd have to either put it on the cart to be put back or put it back. This went on forever, okay? And it was a lot of work. And if it was a journal and it was uh, copied into the system or some type of a viewer, I forgot what they called it exactly, but they would like it's called reels. They have on reels, and it was horrible. It was just so much work. And then you'd have to read it there and take notes, all the stuff like how do you cite, all that information. Then you had to take all of it. So this went on and on and on. So now, fast forward, we have computers and this wonderful thing called computers. So we type in our search engine, and if you're at the library, you don't even have to go to the card stacks. You don't even see those anymore. You just type in, and you know exactly where to go. And if you're lucky, the book pops up or the journal pops up, and you're even better off. Now we have better online libraries where you just type in what you want, and boom, it just goes. Or you have Google Scholar, or you might have some other websites that provide academic sources. So all these things are great, right? So you type in, I want to know about whatever, X, and thousands of results come back because that's how computers work. They don't limit it to what you want. It just throws up everything that in varying relevancy. If it thinks this X is better than this X, and that's how it rates it. So then the question is, well, how do you get there? How do you sort through it? So the librarian will teach you how to quote and minus sign all this stuff, and eventually you can kind of get down to it. You can also use the Google Scholar, things like that. But here's some tricks, okay? And this is really where it came down to. If you go to, say, a textbook, and say you're studying leadership, I'm just using an example. I'm going to use this book here, Northhouse. Okay, great book, right? It summarizes almost every leadership concept in the world. And what's really neat about this is that if I go through here and where is it? Okay, in the back, I know this sounds funny, but I think that comes through. You see where it says references, and in the back, look, and that's just off of each chapter. So each chapter, Northhouse says, here's all the stuff I used. Then if I want to, I can go to the back of the book and I have an index so I can figure out which part I want. A lot of people don't use that anymore. But anyway, so I look at this, and so what Northhouse does is he puts all the references in each chapter. So say you're studying, and I'm just taking random, servant leadership. And you read that servant leadership chapter and you say, you know, that's some good stuff, but I don't know how to research it. Well, just go look at what Northhouse does. It doesn't mean that you're going to copy everything Northhouse does, right? What you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, these are the main authors. And the reason that's important is Northhouse wants to show all of his other academic buddies and peers, I've done my research, what's called a literature review. And I've looked at the people who started this. I've looked, that's called primary sources, people who put original material out. Then I look at all the secondary people that expand it. And those people can be very important people as well, because they can help develop and expand and analyze the process or the theory. So that's what Northhouse does, right? So you look at all these things and you say, wow, look, there's literally tens and tens, sometimes 20, sometimes hundreds of citations. Use the experts to show you what you need to research, especially if you're academic, okay? Masters especially, and even doctorates, and that's almost a given in doctorate school. Here's another low-tech type of one, okay? Everyone talks about Wikipedia. You never use Wikipedia in your work, but, okay, here's the big but. Are there times that people Google Wikipedia and say, I have no clue what that means? I have no clue what that is. Use Wikipedia. Use the internet. Search what that term means. But this is why Wikipedia is important. Is again, here's the concept. Whatever you want to talk about. Political, it could be a political term. You just don't know what it means. And so you go to that, you read it. It's not academic. It may look academic, but it's not, okay, because it's Wikipedia. Go to the bottom, and the author will tell you where they got their sources, if it's even somewhat of quality, okay? So it might note some textbooks, it might note some journals, it might note whatever. So that gives you a little snapshot. Okay, that's what somebody took time to research and show you that they did their research to back up their work. So it's quasi-academic, meaning they wrote something, it could maybe be academic quality, but it hasn't been reviewed. It's not really, anyone can change it. Someone could have went in and changed something. So that's why you go to the source. I have Professor Matheny, he used a colorful way of saying it. He said, I like my gin, I like my academic books like my gin, straight from the bottle. Okay, I'm not suggesting he liked to drink, but he liked to smoke. I'll tell you that. Now, counseling while someone's smoking is pretty cool. I used to get my test back with smoke ashes in them, but I'm going to tell you, his picture is right there. It's the black and white one. Wait, how does my finger work here? Okay, it goes up. I can't do it. Right there. That's Professor Matheny. And he was a thunderous voice, small guy, 5'7" roughly, but he's the one who taught me that. Go to the primary sources, go to where it's original so you can look at it, so you can read what you need. So those are just two techniques on how to use other sources that can help you to get to other sources. I do this because I read a lot of books on certain topics, especially anti-communist topics, and I'll take their reference and I'll go through it and I'll say that's a good book and that's good. So that's how I get reading lists myself, just for just enjoyment, okay? So there's nothing wrong with it. Where people get you on is like, say you just cut and paste all their sources and you use them, and someone says, well, that looks exactly like that book, you know, you've used all of them. That's where you get in trouble. So you don't want to just wholesale cut and paste everything they use, but it doesn't hurt to say what experts, what key things that are common to everything are common to research. Another thing too is there's so much data out there. Another technique is to use the searches and try to obviously thin them down as much as possible, but use the abstracts. That's what abstracts are for. It just gives you a snapshot. You can read it in probably less than a minute. And you can read that and say, does this have anything to do with what I want? Now here's the trick. Okay, once you do that, you can use the abstracts and go through lots of tens and tens of articles. But here's the trick, and this is what the student and I really found out, is that when I first started writing papers, I made the fundamental mistake. I would start writing the paper. I get the cover page. I felt good about myself. One page done. Next. Then I would start writing my paper. And then I would say, okay, now I would fail to do a thesis, which would make the paper harder, but here's where the references come in. We used to call them sources, but references. This is where it came in. This is very, very important. I would start writing the paper, and then I'd go back to the library, because back then we had libraries, remember card catalog, and I would try to find the needle in the haystack. I try to find something that agreed with what I wrote. This is what I needed to say. So I'd go back and research and say, this is what I need you to say. And that took forever. It was next to impossible. So then a professor told me, Matheny, he said, Pete, you're writing to just get to a conclusion. You need to write where the sources take you. It doesn't mean that there are not sources that can approve of everything you say, but when you research and you research the experts and you do the best you can with that, and you compile this paper, it's to show that you've researched these sources, and those sources help you write the paper. Now, you may have a concept, like he was a government teacher. You might say something like the War Powers Act, okay? You have a concept of what it is, but then someone interprets it. If you've already put your opinion on it, then you got to go find someone that believes that exact thing and says basically that exact stuff. Well, that's a lot harder than finding 10 sources and they say different things, maybe similar, but a little different. That's a lot easier to find those sources to put in your paper. And I'm telling you right now, that is one of the biggest tricks that get people in trouble, is that they go and write papers and then they try to put sources back. They'll even put the word cite in there and forget to cite it later. I've seen that multiple times. That tells me that people are not writing the paper as the evidence develops. It's kind of like when I was a federal agent. I may have a thought what's going on. I may have a vision, okay? I may have opinions, but I always had to move to where the evidence went. See the academics the same way. The academics show you the way to go. So anyway, it's a little bit longer video, but very, very good conversation last night with a student. I really respect that and appreciate it quite a bit. You know who you are. We talked about secrecy, and I remember you laughing about that. But anyways, hopefully this will help some students. I appreciate it, and best of luck.